Well, hello, guys. Welcome back to Studio Visits with Jamar Nicholas, NCS members and curious onlookers. Thanks so much for joining me again. I am, for some quick introductions, you may not recognize me because I don't have my white bucket hat on, but as the seasons change, so does my attire. So welcome to fall, Jamar. I am the second vice president of the NCS and also the Philadelphia chapter chair. One of the things that I do, along with all the other things that we do, and that's going to be one of my topics tonight, is I host this really cool series where we bring in members of the NCS and give them the spotlight for a half an hour. And then after our session is recorded and done, we share it with you at the open house. So that's what you're watching right now. So I hope you're excited. I have a really cool guest today. Alexandra Bowman is going to be with me, and we're going to talk about what makes her studio practice tick, and also some other really interesting factoids about her. So I'm really excited to bring her on to the program. So please welcome Alexandra Bowman. Alexandra, can I call you Alex? Is that okay?
Yeah, totally. Alexandra is what goes in the first 3 emails in the email chain, and then it's Alex after that. So, yes.
Yeah, I think I totally did that when we were talking, and you were like,
I think I don't time it, like I don't track the 3. I just try to does it feel like the 3rd or 4th email? Yeah. No,
wow, that's really fun. So, it's funny, like I'm pretty protective of my name, and I'm sure you have things that you like to be called. Maybe it's like, what my mother calls me, Alexander. So I have a bunch of nicknames, but I also don't like people playing around with how my name is structured, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah. I think I like being able to be a shapeshifter. Like if Alex makes more sense in some spaces, awesome. I've got that, and it feels 100% natural. And if I need Alexandra to command the room, then Alexandra is what I use.
I think Alexandra gets you out of parking tickets. I think that's
right. That and crying. Yeah.
Oh man, we're gonna have fun. All right, let me clear the screen. So, one of the questions I asked you in the green room was a little bit about kind of how long you've been in the NCS. So, can you maybe talk about that? How long have you been in the society?
Yeah, I think it's since either 2019 or 2020. I remember in college I hosted an event that ended up getting Matt Worker and Cal to talk to a group of kids. And it was at that event that I met like most of my current colleagues and people I look up to in the cartooning world. And I got hit with like all of the organizations at once. They were like, do you want to join the AAC? Yes. Do you want to join the NCS? Yes. Do you want to join our email list? Yes. Absolutely. So I can trace most of it back to that.
So, oh, wow.
Yeah.
And now we talked a little bit about you kind of like moving from place to place. Have you been in different chapters since you've been in the NCS, or have you been in just one? How's that work?
So I grew up in near the DC area, and I went to school in DC. And then when I joined during that fateful club meeting thing, I was in DC. So I was in the DC chapter until last November. So I've now lived in DC for a year, and I think I'm like, I think I'm still allowed to show up at the DC meetings. I remember some fishy arrangement was figured out, but yeah, I'm gonna be at the NCS Manhattan party in a couple weeks. So.
Oh, very cool. So you're in New York now, right? So,
yes, yeah. I moved to New York like almost a year ago, basically to the day, and I live in Washington Heights, which is super fun.
Oh, very cool, very cool. Yeah. I'm sure there's a lot of differences between DC and New York, but I think still being an East Coast part of it really kind of holds true.
I don't think that it was that much of a transition. It felt like it's just the whole thing is DuPont, right? that's,
Right,
that's
exactly.
the whole thing is DuPont, and the downtown part is a little taller and more oriented around kind of entertainment, I think, than politics. And I was
Mhm.
always more interested in the entertainment side of it anyway. so
Yeah,
yeah.
that's really cool. And one thing also that we were talking about, and I had said this, not to blow up your spot or anything, but I said one thing that I have really enjoyed about kind of seeing you in the mix is just you seem like somebody who just has to go get it. And
Thank you. Oh
I
goodness.
I feel like we share that energy. You know what I
Oh my
mean?
God.
It's
I'm honored.
right, and it's just like,
Yeah.
and we all have things that we do, or there's a thing that maybe you inherited, or you do this thing, and I feel like maybe it's not so much generational, but just kind of like you kind of maybe know the cards that you have, and you may have to play a
Sure.
lot of them. So
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, to be honest, I think a lot of it is just anxiety. Like I grew up in a highly, and I say that like as a joke and also very serious. Like I grew up, I grew up in a super rigorous school district that had me like, you know, realizing that every hour is important from the time I was maybe 9 years old when we had the GT test, you know.
mhm,
I
mhm.
remember, I feel like you're becoming my therapist a little bit, but when I was in second grade, there was a big test. Yeah, I got to get a couch. When I was in second
Yeah,
grade, there was a big test that they didn't tell us was the test that determined whether or not we would get into the gifted and talented program.
of course,
And then,
of course, they didn't
and
tell
then
you that, right?
they were like, just relax. It's not important. We're just asking you what this shape is, you know. And then it turned out, oh shoot, that was the GT test, and that determined that was like the biggest fork in our lives up to that point, and probably
Yeah,
was the biggest fork in my life ever. So
yeah.
yeah, I like any opportunity that seems like it might only be a little bit important. I think I've been trained since I was 7 to go, no, that needs 100% of your energy. So sometimes that's been a liability, but that
Yeah.
I think most of the time it's probably been a good thing. Ignore the bags. You pay no attention to the bags under my eyes. You get
Yeah,
it.
we'll call those bags of honor, not
Yeah,
badges of
sure.
honor.
Well played. Yeah, exactly.
So, but I mean, to that, it's I feel the same a lot, and maybe it manifests itself in different ways, like not so much of a mania, but feeling like I only have so many at bats, or
Right, right,
or like I have one shot,
right.
and I have to crush it every
Exactly.
time. Do you
I
kind
think
of
about that. Yeah,
yeah.
I think about how like Conan was a writer on The Simpsons, and he happened to impress Lorne Michaels, who he barely knew or something like that at that point.
Right. Yeah.
And then he happened to be plucked by that guy then, and his entire life was set up that way. So, I mean,
Mhm.
it can be a pretty debilitating way to live, but if you try to find some kind of balance and knowing that, God's got you at the end of the day, that seems to help a little bit.
So with the kind of this go-getter mentality that we both share, I'm very proud to talk about that. Is so like how are you kind of being a career cartoonist these days? I hear that you're pretty good with the political cartooning.
Thank
So
you. Well,
yeah.
I'm currently syndicated by Kaggle Cartoons. So you can go to kaggle.com, CAGLE.com/Bowman, and you can see all the new cartoons I'm putting out. I'm just getting started with him. I started this year. So my job is essentially just to keep putting them up on that site until enough publishers are familiar with my style and whole thing. And he sent me an email this week going, you have a style that's very different from everyone else. And I'm like, what are the connotations of that? Is that good?
Right, right, right.
And in a field that's dying, I think, well, it's a whole conversation, but it very
That's a whole other thing.
it's a whole other thing, but it can be a distinct liability or a distinct advantage. But it certainly doesn't help that the field's already, about to be
Mhm,
meteored into non-existence.
mhm,
So,
mhm, mhm.
my chances are already pretty limited. But one thing that I was trying to do the whole time, like the goal that kind of resulted in me becoming a political cartoonist was to get involved in late night comedy, and that's still to most of the case, I think. You could probably say that's probably still the goal. But I keep having to monitor the situation as more and more shows keep dying. I'm like, oh, well, not getting to work at Colbert, I guess. That's gone. Got to work at the Daily Show quick before that's, I always wanted to kind of get to that. And so I was looking for opportunities around me that I felt like, well, if I keep doing this, which seems to be the best tool I have in hand to getting to this goal, I'll be happy. If I end up staying a political cartoonist, fine. The opportunities available to me at Georgetown, in DC, were not really TV oriented, other than me making a show, which, yikes, I was so cringe. Those are the opportunities available. I had the political cartooning thing, and making my own YouTube show / Onion thing on Instagram. And I thought, well, this will land me in a position as some kind of political cartoonist, creative artist person. I would like to use it to get to this end. If that doesn't work, okay, but I'll be happy with this. So I'm kind of in this interesting position of having settled into this routine for a couple of years and going, okay, well, I'm not sure if the late night feel will be around long enough for me to eventually, please an admissions guy long enough to let me, if that doesn't work out, am I happy being a political cartoonist? It's not a great field to be hoping to stick around, for an extended period. So I'm lucky that I have my tutoring situation where that's what's funding all of this. The political cartooning has made me maybe like $60 or $70 ever. So, not including the Our Daily Planet stuff, I'd say post counterpoint to now, like for the last 2 years, it's been about $60. And I'm lucky that I have art students and high school writing students and college essay students and SAT students who I just came from, to help kind of fund that as I keep
so you're like a super tutor, it sounds like.
Well, I'm not trying to spread myself thin. I'm just like, oh, you need someone who can teach you that? I can do that. Take me. Yeah, I'll take $80 an hour. Absolutely.
Right.
I don't know if Scott Burns is here, but I worked with his 2 granddaughters earlier in drawing a wolf and Taylor Swift. So he's helping pay for my life. I appreciate that. I have a master's in English and a bachelor's in English and art, and I have the art thing. So I'd say that most of the subjects that I tutor in are English related things, especially middle school and high school writing, and then art related things. So I do a lot of virtual art tutoring where I'm drawing in the app Procreate, of course, and sharing my screen to Zoom, and then the students are seeing that. So I don't have to have the document camera. I can just click share screen. And I encourage them to, if they have an iPad, to do the same thing. And it's pretty seamless. Like, it just frankly requires me to be even better at explaining an instruction. Like, I can't point to fix fix those lines. Instead I have to say, the right side of Taylor Swift's guitar, make that. So it's made me into a better instructor. So
wow, that's really cool. I wanted to ask you about your cartooning influences, because I really enjoy your very bouncy, clean style, and it feels like you have some influences, maybe even in caricature work or anything like that. Like,
for sure.
Talk about that.
Yeah, I'd say the biggest influences are probably, notice I said influences, I'm not trying to compare myself to them, but Chuck Jones and Milt Kahl, I think. Like, there's this...
Ooh, nice pick.
I've described it for a while as the juxtaposition of the formal and the stupid, where, I think that's a reason I like Last Week Tonight a lot, is that there's this, he's British, he's got the tie, he's got the glasses, you want to respect that, but his whole thing is giant stupid stunts, super dumb. There's a giant cake, or he used Cats the Musical to make a joke a year ago, and he said he didn't like it. I had a breakdown. It was, that kind of thing. I actually did. It's that idea of using kind of a respectable package to say something that is both important and respectable and also ridiculous. And that's another reason I think I like political cartoons, is that it's kind of flipping that. It's using a entertaining, silly package to say something both silly and important. So I think that's the reason I like it. But with the influences, I feel like Bugs Bunny's like doing this a lot. Like he's got his chest up. He's got the eyelids lidded. He looks like he's like an aristocrat or something. But he's dropping anvils on people's heads. And I think Milt Kahl does that too, where there's like a sophistication. He's a Bugs Bunny's got like a top hat and tails on, but he's throwing hammers at people, and I really like that. There's something kind of family friendly and subversive about it, and I found that appealing, I think, for a long time.
I had on my blotter on my desk, I had like 2 or 3 collages of Milt Kahl hands, with the real thin wrists. It is just like very blocky. I love that stuff. I got excited when you said Milt Kahl. So
yeah, oh, for sure.
Well, before we run out of time, because we're having so much fun talking, I think you've seen a couple of these. I have 5 questions I have to ask you, and I think I'd get in trouble with Karen if I didn't ask the question. So I'm joking. So let's get it started. So my first question to you, Alex, is what's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Yeah, I frankly forget who said this, but I think it's so important that I am doing something that I genuinely want to do with my life. I'm really, really relieved that I've managed to stick with that. And that's something I continue to ask myself all the time, is like, do you actually enjoy this, what you're doing? Is this just for the grind? Like, it's kind of the central thesis of my work with my college essay students, and frankly, all of them. It's like, you, especially with the college essay students, because they're determining the next phase of their lives, some of the most important decisions of their lives. It's like, do you actually want to be a biology major, or do you actually want to be an English major, or is that just what you think will land you the most success at the end of the day? Right? Right. We know this, that people who tend to pursue prestige over joy are miserable. So why are we setting people up to pursue the misery and making them think that that's going to make them happy at the end of the day? And there's all kinds of nuance in that, but I really try my best. I'm not perfect in this, but I've really, really tried to do right by myself and make sure that I'm pursuing things and spending time on things that I actually really love. And I've really gotten to dive into that, I think, after college, and after I've checked all the boxes that show everybody, look, I did it. Okay, I'm done. I did it. Is this enough? I feel like I've checked those boxes now, hopefully, and I'm trying to use the precious time I have to make sure that I'm using all of that time that I spent checking those boxes to have joy, because I feel like that was the point. Even if it wasn't emphasized, I feel like that was why I was doing all of that, or it was supposed to be why I was doing all of that in the first place. Yeah, I think. Oh, sorry. Oh, the last thing, like, to get a little dark, like, I think COVID was big in nailing that down in my head. Like, shoot, life's short, man. Like, ooh, yikes. Something really bad could happen. I want to make sure that I wasn't sad the whole time, So.
Yeah, that's awesome, because, like, I just don't think that we were kind of raised to even consider your happiness when you're doing something. You did it because you got paid, and shut up.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Like, and that's why I try to, even though I'm using the tutoring to fund my creative pursuits, I try to tutor students who don't make me miserable. Like, I try to tutor in subjects that I enjoy tutoring in, and sometimes that's hard. And I'll do SAT verbal tutoring, fine, sure. But I try to make sure that I'm working with students in subjects like art. Life's short, and I'm really lucky that my parents and school system and series of values up to this point kind of trained me to seek out that excellence in the hard work stuff, because that's why I can do this. And I like to say that too, because I know a lot of people just aren't in that position where they don't have that ability to pursue what they want to. And I don't think it's as simple as waking up one day and going, you know what, why don't I just start, a lot of people simply don't have that. So I'm trying to use the fact that I do have that. It is a degree of privilege in a big way, to get to actually have a nice time. So,
I love it. Very great answer. Great answer. All right, next is kind of on how you kind of record things in the world. Do you keep a sketchbook, Alex?
Yeah, I probably use the Procreate app, or I'll open up a new file. I'm getting a little nervous because that iPad was from a grant that I got during COVID from college, and that iPad is dying, and I have to. That it's a 5-year-old iPad now, and it's like frozen. It's gotten like paralyzed a few times, and I've had to delete a bunch of apps, and I know I'm gonna have to replace it soon, but I don't know how to save all the Procreate files easily. There's like hundreds, so I might just have to pick which .psd files I want to save and put them on my computer. But do I want to do that? Like, it does. Maybe a sketch won't seem valuable to me now, but in 5 years, like, shoot, where was that one? Oh, so I'll just have to figure that out. Maybe there's a way. I'm sure other people have had to deal with this, but yes, I do keep a sketchbook. It's mostly the Procreate app, and I have so many like little sketchbooks, like Moleskine sketchbooks from over the years. Over the years, I'm 25, but shoved in desk organizers and stuff. So what I've tried to do, because I often feel kind of obnoxious getting out my giant iPad Pro that I got with the grant and drawing on it on the subway, I've started to bring a paper sketchbook instead, because it feels a little bit more practical. But then the subway's jostling my arm, so what am I supposed to do? Yeah, it's mostly the iPad, but I try to do stuff on paper as well.
I have a feeling before this Zoom is over, somebody's going to put an answer for you in the chat about how to get your files off that iPad.
Please, I want to save it. I've got 5 years of art in there. Please.
Come on, chat. Bring us home. Bring us home.
Yeah, get in the comments.
All right, Alex. So next up in this is what are you working on these days? What's currently on your plate / drafting table?
Yeah, so my next cartoon that I'm really excited about is it's a Little Shop of Horrors parody. I recently got really into Little Shop of Horrors. Because it seems, I don't think I was this prone to talking about really serious stuff a couple years ago, but it seems it's just where we are. It sure seems like, I know this is not the AAC, this is the General Cartooning Organization, but it sure seems like a lot of folks sold their souls to people who promised them better lives in return for things that didn't seem so bad to take at one point. And I realized that's what makes Little Shop of Horrors so good. Like, basically a dude kills his crush's abusive boyfriend. And the evil plant was like, if you kill your crush's abusive boyfriend and feed him to me, I will give you not only like a Harley Davidson motorcycle and fame and fortune, but also you'll get to save your girlfriend. And so that's the first of the murders in this musical. And the guy's like, wow, yeah, that not only will I get a Harley Davidson, but I'll also get to save my crush. And then over time, that leads to him just killing innocent people. And I feel like to a pretty substantial degree, that's like a perfect illustration of how a lot of this started. Like, I was raised. I was in Republican club in high school. I went to a Romney rally when I was 12, or I was taken to a Romney rally when I was 12. I think that's given me a really needed viewpoint into the real arguments that go into a lot of Republican talking points. And I think a lot of them start in decent places. Some of them, so a lot of those arguments do. Unfortunately, it's just been the trade-offs that have been made for even understandable reasons at first have gone to truly hellish places, and I don't think I'll be able to capture quite how perfect of a metaphor that whole movie and musical are for all of this, but I'm gonna try. It'll make the most sense for people who've seen it. But it's I have like Seymour shoving a guy labeled immigrant into the plant. And the plant's like, yeah, keep it coming. Yeah, I'll give you the Orly, sure. Because it's the metaphor. It's like, yeah, sure, I'll give you those respect worldwide or whatever. Sure, yeah, fine, just keep the immigrants coming or something like that. So I hope that one's not too obscure. People like that movie, right?
Yeah, it's in the public consciousness. I think you're saying.
Yeah. Oh, and then also, so that's what is on the cartooning table. But of course, I also do the costume stuff. And Zootopia 2 is coming out. And that was the first one was super formative to me, having a lot of those ideas about how you can package important messages in cute packages, right? So that movie's important to me, and I'm making the Fox character. I just finished this like yesterday, but I made this. So it's a pair of tights. Here, let me take it off. I don't think I've taken it off the head yet, so you're gonna hear a lot of hot glue snapping. But it's a pair of tights with the legs cut off. And then I glued, wig lace on the sides, and then I hot glued like hair all over it. So it's like hair extension hair that you'd see at a beauty store. So I blended all those colors. So there's like a nice mix of oranges and browns and yellows in there, and some cream.
That's gorgeous.
Thank you. And then I, hot glued all of it on and hairsprayed it to death and made the ears. So I'm hoping to finish the tail this week. And I bought a giant curved shower curtain rod because I want the tail to be, to curve outwards and not just hang down like the cat.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
It's gonna like sit right here and then go like 2 feet behind me. So I needed a shower rod. So I'm gonna tie yarn to that and then hope that it doesn't hurt super bad by the end of the night.
Yikes.
And then take photos with the S train that they decorated to look like a Zootopia train. So that's the plan.
That's fantastic. And for maybe some people who don't follow you on social media, that it's well documented that you have a love of costuming.
I do, yeah. Well, and I'm happy with how I explained this in the green room, but I have been interested in drawing, I think, animals and expressive anthropomorphic animals, which is not a euphemism.
No,
no, it's not. I promise. Since I was probably like 5, and it felt like Cats the musical was kind of a summation of 5 or 6 things that I was already obsessed with, like anthropomorphic animals, British poetry, like drama around things that are very silly. The juxtaposition of the formal and the stupid, like without getting into it, like the whole show is about how, oh my Lord, they think they're so cool. They think they're so funny. They think that they're aristocrats. They think that they run trains. They're hilarious. But it kind of laughs at that and celebrates that. And I think it just is like, oh my Lord, shoot, this is like everything that I like, darn. So I'd say around 2023, I made my first one, and it's been downhill from there.
Wow.
So, yeah.
And you do, like, say if you're doing like a convention appearance or something like that, or you may be in costume.
For sure. Well, whenever I have gotten the opportunity to table at the NCS table, I've been asked to skip the costumes for image reasons. But whatever, fine, I'll respect it. But I have a Garfield though. Like that, I feel like that makes sense.
You're on brand.
I have a Garfield one. He's on the sign. He's on the sign behind the table. But yeah, so I don't know, whatever. But yes, if I'm not tabling with the NCS, then yes, I usually do, because like I made this, and I'm a cartoonist, and most of the cat stuff is just drawing like on my face, and then the whole bodysuit's just a painting. So it's an illustration. I'm a walking illustration. There's a Doctor Who episode. You're like, oh my lord, this took you 3 minutes to explain. There's a Doctor Who episode, in the green room. I explain this. There's a Doctor Who episode where there's these aliens trying to understand humans. And they do it, unfortunately, by killing humans. And at first we think they're innocent, but they start by adapting them into 2D. So they like kill a guy by accidentally like flattening his circulatory system on the wall, and people think it's a poster, but they first started understanding humans that way. And then eventually by the end of the episode, they start sculpting themselves into 3-dimensional creatures. And I feel like that, at least for me, seemed like the logical conclusion of drawing the things on 2D the whole time. Like I needed to make them 3D. I think the happiest I may have ever been as an artist was making my AP 3D portfolio in high school independently. Like I got a 5 on the 2D one and I got a 4 on the 3D one, but I was so happy doing it. There's something just so cool about having all those different 3-dimensional media available to create something. And I love how many options I have that way. I'm going to make a foxtail out of a shower curtain. That's so fun.
Creativity takes so many different, lanes. As again, just to think of the modern cartoonist is like, you just do this. Like, what if you're working in 3D and even just like bringing iPads and stuff like that, and things are just. People work in 3 dimensions these days, and I think that's interesting to see.
And there's like so many tools within 2 dimensions that you can use too. Like, and I tell this to the students, right? Perspective, color, shading, the multiply layer, so many things, especially with traditional media, honestly, more so I think than digital media. And I'm trying to force myself out of the digital media thing. Like I found myself trying to zoom in like this on paper too many times.
It doesn't work when you do that. Right?
Yeah, exactly. And I noticed the other day that I am so used to being able to not just undo, that's the old joke, but to lasso something and move it. As opposed to having to, oh shoot, I need to redraw the whole face. I can't just lasso the face, So I'm really trying to work on that. And I respect the heck out of Cal for doing it all on traditionally. I think Matt Worker said the other day, I no to digital, yes to watercolor. And I felt like so correctly attacked, because that's the language that's used towards AI, like say no to that, absolutely not. I draw the line at this. And I'm like, shoot, I think I remember when digital art was the subject of that debate a couple of years ago, and that's totally taken us over. Shoot, are we the baddies? Am I the problem? But yeah, so I'm trying my best to avoid being too iPad centric.
Gotcha. Oh, we're going to start wrapping this up, Alex, but I got one more hard question to ask you, and this is going to be very apropos after what we just talked about. So my question number 4 is to talk about your studio. Do you have kind of like a sewing room, or kind of like a flat space to work off, like a task desk, and you kind of switch things out depending on what you have to do? How does that work?
Yeah, so I have a 1-bedroom apartment, and I'm not actually using that to say it's super small. It's a really unusually large 1-bedroom apartment, and something I wanted to fix in this apartment compared to my old one in DC was how I had one desk, and it was the worst. Everything, like the wig making stuff and the drawing and the homework and the finals were all at one desk, and it was impossible. So given I get to spread out and I have this unusually large New York apartment, I can basically I have 5 desks. So I'm at my dining table right now. I have a stand-up desk over there, which I've found is great for the wig stuff, because it forces me to stand up the whole time, and if it's like a 6-hour thing, it's better for me. I have a vanity in my room, which has a lot of the face paint makeup stuff in it, and then I have one desk that's just storage, and then I also have a housewarming gift from my boyfriend's mom that's like a coffee table that has a thing on top that rises where you can have a nice little desk.
Oh,
So
yeah, I've seen that.
yeah, so one of the things I have yet to set up in the new apartment is something like what you have, where the cartoonist background is full of the figurines, which I have. They're just not in a one condensed place. So that's something I've been meaning to try to fix.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, so I definitely have a studio. It is the entire space. But I wish that it were more photogenic. So
You know,
yeah.
I think it's important to have zones if you can get away with it. You know, not
Yeah.
necessarily that you need a whole room or something for things, but just, you know, being able to just maybe even turn here and work, and then turn over here and do the other thing. Just
Right.
separating church and state just a little bit. Just a little
For
bit.
sure. Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Yeah, exactly.
So, Alex, we're going to get out of here. I could keep talking to you forever. I hope you've enjoyed this. But before we get out of here, I want to know how the people can find you on the internet. So where can we find you?
Yeah, so I have been thinking about this just because I've accumulated so many social media sites over the years, and I have to think really hard now about which ones I want to send people to. I think me a year ago would say, "Oh my gosh, I'll take a screenshot of all of them and I'll put it up on here and follow all of them." That's not realistic. So I think where I want to send people primarily is the Instagram. I think it's at Alexandra Bowman Art. Thank you. The costume one, which you do not have to put up on screen, just it's for if you listen. It's A Bowman Costumes. You can look up the stuff there. And then I'd also love to send people to my Substack as well. And I've been in New York. Thank you. I've now lived in New York for a year, and I'm starting to settle into what the new landscape of my life looks like. And I would really like to start making, I almost opened with the quiet part, making money off of Substack. I'd love to start making Substack a more substantive part of my life and income. But no, really, I really love writing those essays. I deeply miss the theater criticism work that I was doing. I miss that so much, and I'm trying to work with the people at DC Theater Arts to find a way to make it work. And they're making me feel so wanted that the fact they're humoring me and trying to make it work. But they have a New York section, but there's one lady who kind of does all the New York stuff, and I'm kind of like scooching into her zone, trying to steal her job. Me on the way to steal her job. But I really would like to cover anything she's not covering, but I'm trying to figure that out. Anyway, the spirit is willing, so I'm hoping to put even more on the Substack. And here's the deal: if you'd like to see more cartoons from me, make it so I have to take fewer clients, fewer student clients, because cartoons take 4 to 6 hours. And as I was kind of whining about in the green room, like, it is so hard to find the time to literally afford to sit down and do a cartoon for 4 to 6 hours. I have to pay for my life. I know I chose New York, but you know, the rent's not that much lower in DC where I was anyway. So, you know, I know that I have an expensive creative hobby, but that's important for my creative development, I promise. So I would really, really appreciate it if you like what you see on the Substack, and if you like what you see on the other platforms, consider paying me. Consider getting a subscription. That's super helpful to me, and genuinely, like, there is a direct relationship between your support of that Substack and your ability to see more cartoons, because I will have to spend less time marketing myself to students and taking the students. Oftentimes they're in person, because all the New York rich people families want in-person lessons and not online lessons. So that costs 45 minutes in commuting. I try to condense them so that I get 2 or 3 students on one subway trip, but not always possible. So money is helpful. Thank you. Appreciate it.
I love it.
Thank you.
Alex, we did it. We did it.
Yay, we did it.
We did it. How do you? Well, you know what? It was great talking to you. And I can't wait for everybody that's joining us in the live open house to line up and ask you a million questions, because I'm sure they're on their way. So thank you so much. Thank you so much. And thank you guys again for a great studio visit. And like I like to say, we'll see you in the funny pages.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.